Majority Day Rule Day approaches, the government vows to fortify its observance once and for all.
A public service audit is coming. Find out what that means for you.
And Junkanoo season isn't over yet. Feel the rhythm in Exuma. The National Report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This segment of the news is brought to you by BTC, powered by Lime.
The government is finalizing plans to commemorate one of the country's most historical events. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kendino Knowles.
And I'm Keish Latterly. Thanks for joining us. Today, Prime Minister Perry Christie announced the move to permanently solidify the significance of majority rule in Bahamian history. The Progressive Liberal Party gained historic control of the government on January 10, 1967, from the United Bahamian Party after two independents joined their ranks and gave them a controlling 20 seats in the then 38-member House of Assembly. And now, 46 years later, Prime Minister Perry Christie says government, along with the 40th Independence Anniversary Committee, will decide on whether or not majority rule will be elevated to a public holiday.
Bahamas, we have tended not to see the importance of celebrating Majority Rule Day, even though arguably it is the most important date, with the exception of the abolition of slavery, in the calendar of historical events of our country, and arguably because some may argue independence. But the significance and the historical power of the moment that came about with majority rule, redefining the existence of people, both black and white, in our country, needs to be placed appropriately in the calendar.
Additionally, Prime Minister Christie says full consideration will also be given to implementing this year a Bahamian National Honors System. He notes that as the country prepares to celebrate its 40th independence, this is the time for those decisions to be made. Meantime, Education Minister Jerome Fitzgerald says on Thursday, all 173 public schools will hold special morning assemblies to commemorate Majority Rule Day under the theme, Let the Children Tell the Story, Majority Rule Day.
We will emphasize the importance of that date and pay tribute to the courageous men and women who sacrifice much for the benefits we enjoy today. Going forward, the recognition of this historical day will become a permanent event on the education calendar and will be marked by a special assembly.
It's important that the story of the Bahamas be told. And what he had to say is something I want you to remember. Let the children tell the story, because if the children know the story of the Bahamas, the children will protect the Bahamas, respect the Bahamas, and indeed try to make the Bahamas a better place to live in.
In other news tonight, the Prime Minister has issued his first public comments on the firing of NIB Chairman Gregory Moss.
Yes, last week's termination followed Moss's refusal to resign after releasing a statement contradicting the Prime Minister over the possession of NIB's corporate credit card. Well, Andrew Knowles joins us with the latest on the move to fill the position and the relationship between Christie and Moss. Andrew?
We can know the name of ousted NIB Chairman Gregory Moss's replacement very soon. Prime Minister Perry Christie telling reporters today that he has shortlisted the names of those in the running for the chairman post, but he's not prepared to say just yet who's on that list. He first has to make his recommendations to cabinet.
Begin with a number of people and you come down to a final recommendation. But when you speak to your colleagues, you will give them the list of the names that you were considering, and then you would give them, as Prime Minister, the recommendation that you'd like to make. They will discuss it back and forth for whatever period is justified, and then we'll come up with a decision. I'd like to think that my recommendation will be accepted.
And once that's done, Prime Minister Christie says the announcement of the new NIB chairman should come immediately afterwards. But given Moss's defiant behavior in contradicting the Prime Minister and then refusing to resign at his request, has the relationship between the Prime Minister and Moss become strained?
I think you would have seen a public announcement that I saw where Mr. Moss indicated that he was continually supportive of my leadership. I saw Mr. Moss briefly on the weekend, and in the presence of the chairman of the party, I walked into a restaurant in Freeport, and they didn't expect me, and most certainly I didn't expect to see them. And Mr. Moss and I took a picture together. And I think I was smiling.
In the days since Moss was fired, there's been speculation that he would resign. But Prime Minister Christie says he doesn't think the Marco City MP would leave the PLP.
I've seen in the past people do things like that, but I have and continue to believe that all the things he said about his support for the PLP and the leadership of the PLP, he meant and will maintain. I have every confidence that that will take place.
Now, Cabinet meets tomorrow, and at that time it's expected that the Prime Minister will present his recommendations to his Cabinet colleagues. Back to you, Candido.
Thanks, Andrew. Well, following much speculation, Prime Minister Perry Christie announced today that Immigration Director Jack Thompson has been reassigned.
Given instructions to the Cabinet Secretary to reassign him to the Cabinet Office with particular directions to assume the chief administrative position in the Secretariat for the 40th anniversary, and all of that with immediate effect.
Now, Mr. Christie announced that longtime immigration officer William Pratt has been appointed as acting director. Meantime, Prime Minister Christie also commenting on the death of the husband of Transport and Aviation Minister Glenys Hanna-Martin. He said he was deeply saddened over the tragedy and says Mrs. Hanna-Martin is a strong lady who is assured of her colleagues' support in these difficult times.
I think she is really a very strong lady who is coping well, who reflects the concern of the children, and otherwise very, very sad for what has taken place. And I think that is a position, and I indicated to her that those of us, of her colleagues, will wrap our arms around her and give her all the support that she needs in these circumstances. And so
Well, thank you, Keisha and Candino. We have some cloud being advected southward across the northwest Bahamas, but outside of our studios just now, we have partly cloudy skies, temperature 74 degrees, relative humidity 79%. Your winds are out of the east at 4 knots, barometric pressure 1,019.4 millibars, that's 30.10 inches, and rising. But stay tuned, we still have your temperatures around the Farm Islands, boating and travel weather.
Thanks a lot, Basil. Well, it's been about a year now since the government's offer to business persons affected by the roadworks to apply for compensation.
And as Janaea Noel Ferguson tells us, today it was revealed that about half of the applicants have been approved amidst pending court action by those who feel the compensation is too little and too late.
A waiver of real property tax and a discount for advertising with the Broadcasting Corporation are just some of the incentives the government is offering to those businesses that suffered loss due to the roadworks program. And while many are already taking advantage of these options, Minister of State in the Ministry of Finance, Mr. Michael Alkita, says more and more businesses are looking at the option of receiving a rebate off of their electricity bills.
This plan is non-cash, where the government is not really coming up with any money to say grant money. We are using some of the receivables that BEC owes to the government. So it's not direct cash, but for example, if we have made some contributions to BEC to help support them, then we are using that to offset the cost of this program.
And although many, like the Coconut Grove Business League, has said what the government is offering is not enough and have moved to take legal action against the government, Halkitis says their biggest bone of contention is the route of the roadways.
Those who say, well, you know, the microloan is small or the relief is small. Firstly, I think the majority of the businesses that were affected were small businesses, and we think we can help them. And secondly, we have not closed the door in our discussions with the medium and larger sized businesses. And to the extent that we can, as a matter of fact, we are speaking with several of them to cater some solution that would be beneficial to them.
Now, since the compensation program was launched late last year for businesses, Mr. Halkitis said that some 22 businesses have already been approved out of the 58 that apply. He said that the process is ongoing. Now, this is a stark difference from the 330 businesses that were surveyed under the former administration.
When we unveiled it, it was towards the end of the year, and individuals might not have gotten the news. And some people have gone out of business. They might not be clear that it actually applies to them still, and it does, because there is some relief for people who have gone out of business. And people continue to apply. So we're hopeful that the maximum amount of people come forward and take advantage of the program.
Now, Halkitis suspects that some 600 to 800 businesses were affected by the Roadworks program. He's encouraging all business persons who may have been affected to come forward. The deadline. ZNS Network News.